That's
because
awesome.
just the stuff that we have is insane. Like last year, a guy bought a pair of Luka Doncic shoes that he didn't know for like $1,200.
Right.
And we were like, are they game used? We're like, I don't know. He signed them. We think he wore them in practice.
Mm-hmm.
The guy got them matched, and they got them authenticated and all that kind of stuff. He turned down $30,000. Someone offered him for those shoes.
Wow.
He paid $1,200 for it, our charity, which is great for us. I mean,
Yeah,
they didn't
sure.
cost us
Yeah.
anything. That's $1,200. That's wonderful for us. So, and we have auction items that go $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. So it gets pretty fun that night. And we're going to do an online auction this year.
That's
that
awesome.
will lead up until the night, and then everything. We have a great auctioneer named Brett Richards who will make you spend your money. So we're really fortunate there too.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, this sounds like a great organization, and I'm excited that you exist and for what you do. It's so great.
We are too. We're really happy. We're really, really fortunate.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. All right, we are here with Dylan with the Woods at Dunlop Park. How are you doing today?
Doing great. How are you guys?
We're doing well. Doing well. Thank you for coming in. And I guess the first question is, what is the Woods at Dunlop Park?
Well, Dunlop Park is a recreational sports complex. It's located in North Arlington. It's about a mile west of River Lakesview Park, and it has a wooded area behind it that the city allocated for specific use of off-road BMX bikes. It features lines of jumps and hills, various skill levels and sizes. It's all maintained 100% by us.
By community?
By the
Like the community.
by mostly riders, just local riders come out there and ride and dig, and we kind of come up with designs and collaborate together. And we get a lot of people from all over the Arlington, especially Fort Worth, Dallas, DFW. There's a lot of trail spots, but other than 9th Street in Austin, we're the only one that's actually, city's gone through the troubles that here's some land for you guys, here's some rules. No one can ride dirt bikes in your spot. You can't drink, smoke, do things like that. There's city rules, obviously, but it's more private. It's off the beaten path, where that's our spot. So, in 20 years that I've been out there, we've only had a couple of instances where we've had to call the police because we have someone, giving us a riffraff, and they don't get it. That's our spot. This is, our little few acres in the entire city. We can do this. We can come and do this, and we're out of your way. Y'all are out of our way. We don't cause any problems. So it's been there for a good while. We get a lot of people from all over, like I said, some people from out of the country, all over different parts of the country, traveling. Now that we have our social media page up and we do regular updates on that, we get a lot of other trail units around the world that actually follow our page, and we follow theirs and discuss ideas and get ideas and just kind of network and keep everybody on the same page. So it's really good. It's kind of like a tiny nature preserve.
Yeah, like when I actually I was with my daughter at the park. This is how I stumbled upon it. I was with my daughter at the park, and I looked over and I was like, "What's that fence? Why is there a hole in the fence?" And so I was like, "What is this?" And no one was there because it was like in the middle of the day, like in the middle of the week. And I walked over and I said, "Oh, this is a BMX thing." I was like, "This is awesome!" And I looked around, I looked at the jumps and the lines that you have going, and I said, "Oh!" And I saw the signs that you have over there, and I said, "This is so cool." Because when I was growing up, we didn't have anything like that.
No.
I know that I wasn't super into it. I didn't do jumps or anything like that. But I had some friends that did, and they would kind of go to River Legacy and do it kind of in the woods and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And I know that they were getting in trouble for that.
Yes.
And so when I saw this place, I said, maybe this is what it is. Maybe they were like, oh, we need to give these guys a place to go because if not, they're going to tear up the woods back here.
Yeah, there was a place by my house that they built a house on it now, but it was just all dirt, and you could tell that they were just riding the bikes around because there was, like you said, there was those big mounds, and I was like, okay. But I never actually saw anybody over there doing it, so I was like, maybe I need to come back by here. But then they started building a house, and so
It might have been a reason you never saw them.
that's exactly yes. So how'd you get involved with the woods?
Excuse me. So my involvement with the woods, I actually started with River Legacy. Like you mentioned before, there were trails back in River Legacy for some 20, 30 years. I believe they were actually there before most
River
of the
Legacy
park was
Wow.
built. Yeah. And as a kid, I rode there with a bunch of my friends, and we were fully aware that it was never really segregated land specifically for that, but it was there. It was kind of like, no harm, no foul. Most of what we rode was washout, was dead trees that would fall down and, just natural curves of the land. And when it dried out, we'd ride the bottoms of the pits. And over the years, as BMX came a little bit more about, especially in our area, there's a big racing circuit around here, a big BMX racing circuit. So a lot of the guys were looking for places where they could just kind of free ride in the off season, and little jumps would form out there, and it went on for years. I spent decades riding out there. So it was a good time, and I remember at some point everything started getting shut down. Like there was a lot of issues. I'm not sure really what set it off because I've heard different stories, but I heard from a city official a long time ago that it all started with a kid falling and breaking his arm. Out there.
I think I've heard something similar.
Yeah. So, anyway, someone fell and broke a bone. I know that much, and the city took legal action, probably because the parents took legal action, and they didn't have any safeguards in place against that. So at that time, for liability reasons, the city just deemed it,
Can't do that.
don't do it. Just don't do it. We saw the signs going up, and there were multiple spots around the park that we went to. There were also multiple spots around Arlington that the city had started catching on to. A lot of it was on private property. The neighbors had complained the traffic in and out, or it was on city property. The city deemed okay, at the time, I don't know if they felt that bike riders were just a nuisance or problem, or if they really didn't understand like the full aspect of what was going on. But regardless, they shut it down. After running for 20 years, that spot being there naturally in the woods, never did any harm to anybody. All of a sudden, they're gone. So there were a lot of other spots that were starting to pop up in places they shouldn't be popping up. And, me being part of it, being younger, like, we dug wherever we could.
Right.
Creek beds behind houses, construction sites. I mean, we knew it would be there for a few weeks before the dirt got moved. It was still something.
Yeah. Especially without a place to do it at.
Right. And some of us took our chances and went back to River Legacy knowing all well, just kind of ride past the signs. The signs would come up missing from time to time, so guys would just use that as, I didn't see a sign. I personally gathered a few citations over the years for riding out there, and there were actually undercover cops and detectives out there, and they came out there with cameras, and they pretended like they were bird watching, and they were actually snapping photos of the guys riding. They presented that to me later in court when I was in discussion. I was a minor at the time, but I was in discussion over some of my citations I've got for riding out there. My parents, my teachers, everyone thought it was absurd. How are you? You're a kid. You got a ticket for riding a bike in the woods.
Right.
They have nothing better to do.
Yeah, you should just call that playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like, there's so many other things you could be doing. Like, so, there was a local bike shop in town, Bicycle Tech. It was owned by Paul Chaprinko, I believe was his name. And they focused a lot on BMX race stuff, because that's what they sold mainly of. But they sold some other freestyle type components. And at the time, that's more what my friends and I were into. And I'd been saving for months, man, mowing lawns, trying to save up for money for one of the parts that were up there just dazzling my eye. And I had to have it on my bike, And I finally went in there one day, and Paul approached me, and he's like, "Hey, he's like, you and your buddies, y'all like to jump, right? Y'all don't race. Y'all are here buying this stuff." And he's like, "Yeah, and y'all ride out River Legacy." The conversation went on some, and basically he informed us that the city was looking to get together a bunch of people that ride bikes, all kinds of bike riders, parents. A lot of the BMX race community was in. There's a lot of sponsors or a lot of parents with money that wanted this, and he sent home some information with me, and I think there was a petition. I remember going around my neighborhood and asking my neighbors if they thought it was a good idea, and I had to explain to them
what it was?
First of all, what it was,
right.
why it mattered. They didn't understand, and my parents had given me photocopies of the tickets I got and I had to present them to my friends, riding bikes. We just want a place to do this so we're not in everyone's way. The city has more than enough land. Yeah. We just want our spot back. At the time, that was our main goals. We wanted our spot back. And it's been some time, but I remember going to a couple of the meetings, and in one of the first meetings at Vandergrift Park, the big community center there, Bob Duncan, there was a bunch of city workers and people in suit and ties, and they had these plans sketched out, and they sat down with a bunch of the parents, and a bunch of the racers were there, and I remember they specifically, my friends and I made it a point to show up with our bikes.
Okay.
We toted our bikes. Our parents were you can't take your bikes in there. It's a city office. It's no, we got to take our bikes.
Right.
That's the thing. All of our friends had discussed this together individually at the shop. Yo, when you go, take your bikes. And it was a visual thing for them. They see just bikes. They were in the way. They were in the hallway. They were sitting in the chairs. They were laying over on camera gear. They were on the stage. they were, and the city. The people that were working the event, it seemed like they were just so overwhelmed. What the hell is going on? Right. Why are they all bringing their bikes in here? And I think it really made an impact. Yeah. Even as a kid, I remember thinking, it felt good. They see this.
Yeah.
These are bikes. It's just kids riding bikes. Yeah, they're not just, we're not just kids just playing in the woods, starting fires. This is what we came for.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So this needs to happen one way or the other. And again, we were still aiming to get our spot back because that's what we knew. That's what we were familiar with. And they had made it clear to us it's not happening.
That wasn't happening. Mm-hmm.
Dorba was going to take over, which is Dallas Off-Road Biking Association. They were going to install trails out there.
They do the mountain bike trail maintenance and stuff, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And there's several ones in different cities. Dorba is a big one, and I believe they took over the River Legacy trailheads out there. And, to this day, they've done wonders with the park. I don't know if you guys ride at all, but if you even just walk some of the trails, they're amazing. Mm-hmm. And they're good. They're not intense like some of the other spots around DFW. But there's a lot to offer for people like dads who ride once a month. There's still trails they can get through and have a good time and get exercise and a workout. And there's some nice trails you can walk. There's some stuff out there that is pretty choppy and it's pretty hairy. So, it's good. There's a good network there. And it wasn't there before. I remember hearing there were some neighbors that were complaining that we were cutting down trees and starting fires. They threw out all kinds of stuff out there.
Scare tactics.
I don't know that I'm not going to say that didn't happen. I never saw it happen. I never saw a tree once ever get cut. I did see trees fall from time to time, and we moved them around or cut those trees up to get them out of the way, and we cut notches between them or with axes or whatever. But I don't specifically remember everybody, ever really harming the vegetation. So, at any rate, I got contacted some months after those first couple of meetings. My parents had given me a piece of paper when I got home. It was actually addressed to me. It was from the city. Wow. I was a little surprised. I felt like I was in trouble. The city's directly addressing me in mail, so I was kind of excited. They opened it with me, and they wanted us to show up at this location one day on a Saturday at this certain time, and they're in there told us, it was a real friendly letter, It felt like somebody was talking to us, and they're like, bring your friends, your family's welcome, there'll be hot dogs, I was like, okay, cool, food and drink supplied, everything, so it was rad. So I show up there on the Saturday, and half the parking lot is filled. There's front loaders, bulldozer tractors, and I thought they were going to level the entire playground. I was like, well, what are they about to do? I've seen this park. It was the old wooden park. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Everybody knew it growing up in Arlington, the Castle Park. Mm-hmm. My son even calls it that. Yeah. So I'd been there before, knew the park, never even realized there was a patch of woods behind it that belonged to the city. Oh. That's what they gave us. So I show up on spot, a little nervous, didn't really know what to expect. I walk around, didn't see anybody that I'd talked to at the meetings that I recognized. These were all, blue-collar workers that were ready to do some damage. And I recognized an older guy that lived in my neighborhood, an older BMX rider. I've ridden with him a few times. Didn't really know that he was in the dirt and trails, but he wasn't. He told me he was.